This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Well, the Royal Bahamas Police Force has shored up its executive with a series of promotions.
Well, the promotions saw the reintroduction of the ranks of Senior Assistant Commissioner and Chief Superintendent. The Royal Bahamas Police Force promotions include the elevation of 4 officers from the rank of Assistant Commissioner to Senior Assistant Commissioner. The new Senior Assistant Commissioners are Anthony Ferguson, Emmerich Seymour, Leon Bethel, and Stephen Seymour. 3 officers have been elevated from Superintendent to Assistant Commissioner. They are Melvin Lundy, Stephen Dean, and Carolyn Bowe, who now holds the highest rank of any woman in the Royal Bahamas Police Force. 12 former superintendents have also moved up the ranks. Newly appointed Chief Superintendents are Albert Ferguson, Ronald Campbell, Clement Lightburn, Kendall Strawn, Ismelda Davis, Lehman Delaveau, Clayton Fernander, Ashton Greenslade, Samuel Butler, Paul Roll, Clarence Reckley, and Theophilus Cunningham.
All right, now police have wasted no time charging 3 men in connection with that $600,000 drug bust 3 days ago. As Fern Carey reports, the defendants are facing 2 charges in connection with that drug find.
32-year-old Kirk Moss in the tracksuit, 46-year-old Jarius Bowleg wearing the red T-shirt, and 43-year-old Shelton Bodie in the blue T-shirt were formally arraigned on possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply and conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with intent to supply charges. The trio was indicted in connection with that $600,000 drug discovery on Saturday. They were arrested after DU officers, while conducting a surveillance exercise, allegedly observed them offloading bags of suspected marijuana off a vessel in Coral Harbor. However, during today's proceedings, the defendants denied any involvement in the matter and pleaded not guilty as charged. Moss and Bowleg were also charged with an additional count of conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with intent to supply and possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply. Allegations they also denied. The defendants were all remanded to prison. They return to court in March of next year for the start of their trial. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
A judge has sentenced the 34-year-old man who raped his 65-year-old mother to 8 years in prison. However, the court took off those 3 years after taking into account the time he's already spent on remand. Justice Indra Charles also ordered that the convict receive treatment at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center for anger management and drug abuse. Prosecutors revealed that the convict locked his mother in the house they shared and had sex with her for about 6 hours. He then locked her in a room and told her he would return later to continue the assault. However, his mother managed to escape through a window and reported the incident to police. Meantime, the convict has indicated that he will appeal that conviction. Police have charged 19-year-old Valentino Johnson with having unnatural sex with an underage boy back in July of this year. Court documents allege that sometime in July, Johnson had unnatural sexual intercourse with the 4-year-old. The case has been adjourned.
Well, those 3 Romanian nationals arrested earlier in connection with ATM fraud here in the capital are expected to have their charges reduced come Thursday. Crown Prosecutor Ambrose Ombriston informed the court of the Crown's intention during today's proceedings before Chief Magistrate Joanne Ferguson Pratt. The charges include unauthorized access to Royal Bank of Canada computers back on September 6th for the purpose of obtaining unauthorized ATM services. The matter has been adjourned to Thursday to allow defense attorneys to speak with their clients on the matter. Well, a team of government representatives in Trinidad and Tobago attending an Ebola summit put on by CARICOM. They are discussing regional safety protocols, preparedness, and strategies to protect member states from the potential public health crises and economic fallout from Ebola. Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell is among those in that conclave.
The information is always key, and you've got to continue to exchange information and to make sure that the best practices for the region are up to date with what is required around the world. So I think it's critical in that sense. We don't face a crisis as such because the number of episodes is very limited. But what I would say is that you always have to be prepared. And our preparedness, of course, is quite good in the Bahamas from all the international inspections that have been done on that issue. But chikungunya, the disease which is spread by mosquitoes, is quite something throughout the Caribbean. So we have to keep our eyes on that as well.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm Sieska Adderley. Long Island will be the site of the newest Bahamas Business Outlook. It joins islands such as Grand Bahama, Abaco, Exuma, Andros, Eleuthera, and of course here in New Providence. The one-day Long Island Forum is set to take place next Wednesday at the Clarence Town Community Center. In other business news, Melissa Sayers recently celebrated the opening of its third store at its newest location on Carmichael Road. For close to 30 years, the company has been providing affordable clothing for Bahamians. She says business has been good, which is evidenced by its continued growth.
We are all about growth, getting better and better, and we're excited, even more excited than the beginning. Growth is continuous. And we continue to improve.
And in international news, Chinese internet conglomerate Alibaba had 307 million annual active buyers on its retail marketplaces at the end of September, a jump of 52% from the same period last year. That's a gain of 105 million users. The figures were revealed in the company's earnings report, its first as a public company since September's record-setting initial public offering. Alibaba's overall revenue soared 54% to over $2.7 billion. This has been your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scotterly.
Women from all walks of life were honored last night as the non-profit organization Celebrating Women International hosted its Women of Distinction ceremony. The ceremony took place at the Melia Nassau Beach Resort and featured a keynote address from Attorney General the Honorable Alison Maynard Gibson. She encouraged women to continue rising to the occasion as they are the backbone of the country. She also addressed a startling statistic revealed a few weeks ago.
We have to be concerned, though, when we read in the newspaper that 58% of high school boys believe that men should discipline their female partners. This is something that we really do have to be concerned about. When we think about, in living memory, the suffragettes who fought for women to have the right to vote, we remember that not so long ago it was okay to discipline the woman as long as the rod wasn't thicker than your thumb. We think that these things are behind us, but then when we read that these ideas are still in the minds of high school men.
Hundreds of Bahamians are incarcerated each year as punishment for criminal offenses. Well, Minister of Social Services and Community Development, the Honorable Melanie Griffin, says, however, that it's the court's intent to have offenders return to society as productive citizens with the help of targeted educational and social programs. The Department of Rehabilitative Welfare Services is celebrating Rehabilitation Month in November, and the theme, Changing Lives Through Rehabilitation, celebrates that vision. Activities begin with a church service at the Antioch Baptist Church, Stapleton Gardens at 10 a.m. Thursday, and staff is set to participate on radio talk shows throughout the month. Taking note of the rate of crime in the country, the Social Services Minister says the decay of the family and an ailing economy have contributed.
The challenges of an economy yet emerging from a devastating recession, and many Bahamians unable to meet their financial obligation to care and provide for their family. Unfortunately, because of these circumstances, many of them resort to a life of crime and other delinquent behaviors. These individuals are in need of a life-changing, self-enrichment, and enhancing experience that can be realized and captured through the process of rehabilitation. First of all, the person must first want to change. We can't want that for them. We do want it for them, but they must also want it for themselves.
Well, elderly residents from several homes for the aged and the Fox Hill community were treated to an afternoon of eats and dancing, courtesy of the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services today. The luncheon at the Demetrius Home and Care Center was the department's way of showing appreciation to the nation's precious pearl, as it marks 62 years with a week of celebrations under the theme Agents of Change, transitioning from punitive to corrections. Some 1,400 inmates are incarcerated at the facility, with a staff of a little more than 600, and another 99 recruit officers are set to graduate on Friday to add to those numbers. Public Affairs Officer Sergeant Monique Greenslade spoke about today's luncheon.
It's important for us to recognize our senior citizens, to encourage them, to keep them motivated, to let them know that they're still a part of the country, and to give back. We believe that although we are changing lives inside the walls of the institution, that we must also come into community and let persons know that is important. They're still important to us. And we believe as officers that, because you'll see here that only officers are partaking in this service here today, we feel it's important for us to give to our senior citizens.
Now, this is the department's second year at the home, and Greenslade says they were reminded to bring the pop band with them. As it played, several residents hit the floor. Home resident Samuel Wilson says he appreciates the attention given to the group by the officers.
Actually, this is the third time they came to us. First to the Soldier Road Home, and last year, and this year. And I think they enjoy our company, and we enjoy theirs. Every time we have a function, I enjoy myself. And I guess it's just in me.
Residents in the southern Bahamas are concerned about airlift to their area. Arvon Albury is there and has their reaction.
We have written to Bahamas Air on numerous occasions, and I've recommended to them that any visitor coming to Crooked Island, Acklins, or Long Key to make sure tag their bags as priority.
That's Bernard Ferguson, a Crooked Island Fishing Lodge owner, talking about the constant challenges Crooked Island and Acklins face with Bahamas Air's shared twice-a-week service on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Acklins Administrator Francina Needy says it's a vexing problem affecting the Twin Islands' economies.
There has been a number of challenges where persons from Acklins could not get on the flight, and Acklins could only get 8 persons on from Nassau, like that. And there are times when the Bahamas Air flight would come in, and if it's the plane that cannot bring a lot of luggage, a lot of persons' luggages would get left in New Providence.
Including tourists.
Exactly, tourists.
On Saturday, the ZNS News team's camera equipment was left in Nassau, ruining a tight schedule of prearranged interviews.
Prior times, Bahamas Air had occasionally sent in a private plane to bring luggages in, right? Recently, the managers just took the decision that, you know what? We're not going to send in a private plane. So if your luggage missed the flight, it stays until Wednesday. Had it not been for ZNS, those people's stuff would have stayed until Wednesday. Could you imagine a guest coming here with no underwear, no change of clothes?
That was exactly the case for a fly fisherman from Denmark who, after overnighting in Nassau after a long flight from Europe, found that his rods and clothing were left in Nassau. Thankfully, a charter from Nassau into Long Island, then Crooked Island, resulted in us getting our luggage. Gray's Point Bonefish Inn owner, Shirley Williamson, knows this frustration all too well.
Hopefully, Bahamas Air will get it sorted out, because the plane is shared, and you have to me, I feel as if the plane should be shared equally, not overbooked on one side and the other side cannot get home.
Acklins Administrator Francina Neely says they continue to petition Bahamas Air officials to rectify the issue.
I have made communication to the powers that be and Bahamas Air with a view to seeing if they can only add one more flight to its present fleet, because 2 flights just ain't cutting it for these 2 islands a week.
In Crooked Island, I am Vaughn Aubrey, ZNS Network News.